Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
The alien ambassador could read everyone's mind, except mine. She was sent to understand humans. I was the only puzzle she couldn't solve. What started as frustration became an obsession neither of us expected. The crystalline being materialized in the United Nations Assembly Hall like morning frost forming on glass. Ambassador Zyx'therial, her chosen human designation, stood 7 feet tall with translucent blue skin that shimmered with internal light. Her 3 eyes, arranged in a triangle on her elongated face, scanned the room of diplomats and world leaders. I watched from the press gallery as she began speaking without moving her lips, her telepathic voice resonating directly in everyone's minds. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am here to study your species and determine your readiness for galactic inclusion. Around me, seasoned journalists scribbled frantically, their faces slack with wonder. Security personnel stood frozen, apparently receiving reassuring thoughts. Even the Secretary General nodded along to some unheard conversation. But I heard nothing except the ambient noise of the hall. Dr. Marcus Chun, my editor, leaned over. Kai, are you getting this? She's explaining their evaluation criteria. It's fascinating stuff about emotional complexity and collective consciousness. I stared at him, then at the alien ambassador who had tilted her head in my direction. Her triangular gaze seemed to pierce through the crowd directly to me. I'm not hearing anything, I whispered. Marcus looked confused. What do you mean? She's talking about... He stopped mid-sentence as all 3 of Zyx'therial's eyes locked onto mine. For the first time since her arrival, she looked uncertain. Her internal light flickered like a candle in wind. Something was wrong, and somehow I was at the center of it. 3 days after first contact, I received an unexpected summons to the UN building. The elevator to the secured floors felt like ascending into another world. Ambassador Zyx'therial had requested me specifically, the only human who couldn't hear her telepathic communications. She waited in a sterile conference room, her form shifting between solid and translucent as emotions played across her crystalline features. When I entered, her 3 eyes focused on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. You are Kai Nakamura, she said aloud, her actual voice melodic but strangely mechanical. Speaking seemed to require effort. That's right. You wanted to see me? Her head tilted at an impossible angle. In my species, we call ones like you Vashti, the silent ones. We believe them to be extinct. I sat across from her, notebook ready. What does that mean exactly? Your mind. She paused, her light dimming as she concentrated. It is opaque. I can sense its presence but cannot penetrate its thoughts. This should not be possible with humans. The way she said it made it sound like a medical condition. So you really can read everyone else's mind? Not read commune. Thoughts flow between minds like water between vessels. But yours. She leaned forward, her 3 eyes narrowing. Yours is sealed, isolated. It fascinates me. There was something in her voice. Not just curiosity, but genuine intrigue. Maybe even longing. Is that why you asked for me? To study the freak? Her light flared suddenly. No. I asked for you because for the first time in 3 centuries, I have encountered a mind I cannot understand. And I find that I enjoy the mystery. 2 weeks into her residency, Zyx'therial requested something unprecedented. A private dinner. Not a formal diplomatic meeting, but what she called social sustenance gathering. Her species equivalent of sharing a meal. The UN arranged a private dining room overlooking Manhattan. She sat across from me, her crystalline form refracting the city lights into rainbow patterns on the walls. She didn't eat, her species absorbed energy directly, but she watched with fascination as I navigated my pasta. Your feeding rituals are remarkably complex, she observed, speaking aloud more easily now. The textures, temperatures, chemical combinations. Yet I cannot sense the pleasure you derive from it. That's the point of taste, I said between bites. It's personal. Subjective. Her 3 eyes blinked in sequence. Something I'd learned indicated deep thought. On Vexhar, my homeworld, all experiences are shared. Pleasure, pain, discovery. Everything flows between minds like colors bleeding into water. To experience something alone would be. She paused, searching for words. Terrifyingly beautiful. I set down my fork. You've never had a private thought? Never. Until I met you, I believed privacy was a dysfunction. But observing you, studying your expressions and reactions without knowing their source, her light pulsed rhythmically. It is like discovering a new spectrum of light. The vulnerability in her voice surprised me. Here was a being who could commune with entire civilizations, yet she was drawn to the one mind she couldn't touch. What's it like? I asked. Always being connected to others? Safe, warm, but also. She hesitated. Predictable. You humans have a word, loneliness. I never understood it until I began to crave the mystery of your thoughts. Ambassador Zyx'therial requested to experience what she called human recreational movement in Central Park. Walking, she explained, was a primitive form of meditation she wanted to understand. What she didn't mention was that she'd specifically requested my company as her guide. Her disguise was remarkable. A shimmering holographic field that made her appear as a tall, ethereal woman with pale blue eyes. Only I could see the subtle distortions where her true form showed through. Your species finds meaning in circular movement with no destination, she observed as we passed joggers. This fascinates me. On Vexhar, all movement serves purpose. Sometimes the purpose is just the movement itself, I explained, leading her toward the reservoir. Or thinking, or not thinking. She stopped suddenly beside a flowering cherry tree, her disguised form flickering with emotion. I have been accessing the memories of your botanists. These trees produce no sustenance, serve no functional purpose, yet humans cultivate them for beauty alone. Is that strange to your people? We have beauty, but it emerges from function. Unity. Shared purpose. She reached toward a low branch but stopped short of touching it. This is beauty for its own sake. Individual appreciation of unnecessary wonder. A couple walked past, holding hands and laughing at some private joke. Zyx'therial watched them intently. I cannot access their thoughts from this distance, but their body language suggests joy. Private joy, shared only between them. Her voice carried an odd note, wistful, almost envious. You humans create these small universes of two, closed off from the collective. How do you bear such isolation? I looked at her, really looked at her. Maybe isolation isn't the right word. Maybe it's intimacy. Her disguise flickered entirely for a moment, revealing her true luminescent form. The thunderstorm struck during my third week of interviews with Zyx'therial. I found her in her quarters, her crystalline form pulsing erratically with each lightning flash, her three eyes wide with what looked like terror. The electromagnetic disturbance, she said, her voice strained even through speech. It interferes with my telepathic abilities. I cannot reach my ship, cannot sense the minds of others in the building. I am completely alone. I had never seen her vulnerable before. Her usual composed demeanor had shattered like ice, revealing something raw and afraid underneath. It's just a storm, I said gently. It'll pass. You do not understand. Her light flickered weakly. I have never been truly alone. Even in deep space travel, I maintain connection with my crew, my homeworld. This silence in my mind, how do you humans bear it? I moved closer, noting how her alien features seemed more pronounced in her distress. We're not actually alone right now. I'm here, but I cannot touch your thoughts, cannot feel your emotional resonance. You are present but unreachable. A sound escaped her, something between a sob and a harmonic vibration. Is this what loneliness feels like? Thunder crashed overhead, and she flinched. Without thinking, I reached out and touched her hand. Her crystalline skin was surprisingly warm, pulsing with internal light. Physical contact, she whispered, staring at our joined hands. Your species uses touch to bridge the gap between isolated minds. Her light stabilized slightly. I can feel your pulse, your body temperature. Not your thoughts, but your presence. Your life force. We sat in silence as the storm raged outside, her hand in mine, both of us learning something new about connection that existed beyond telepathy. I need to tell you something, Zyx'therial said during our morning interview session. She had been agitated for days, her internal light fluctuating in patterns I'd learned to recognize as deep emotional conflict. What is it? She stood and began pacing, a human habit she'd unconsciously adopted. My people sent me here to evaluate humanity for galactic inclusion. The ability to commune telepathically is considered essential for advanced civilizations. Species that cannot share thoughts directly are deemed primitive. A chill ran down my spine. And your species largely fails this test. Most humans show only rudimentary telepathic potential. Under normal circumstances, I would recommend against inclusion. She stopped pacing and fixed all three eyes on me. But you have complicated everything. Me? I'm the least telepathic person you've met. Exactly. Her form shimmered with what I'd learned was intense emotion. You represent something my people believed impossible. A mind that exists in complete self-contained integrity. Not primitive isolation, but sovereignty. Your thoughts are your own in a way we've never encountered. I felt a growing dread. What does that mean for humanity? I have been sending reports to the Collective Council. They are intrigued by your case. Some believe you are an evolutionary anomaly. Others think you might represent humanity's true potential. She sat across from me, her light dimming to almost nothing. But Kai, there is something else. Something I have not reported. What? Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. In all my centuries, serving the collective, communing with countless minds across the galaxy, I have never felt what I feel when I am with you. The uncertainty, the mystery, the desire to understand someone I cannot simply absorb. She paused. I believe you humans call it falling in love. The revelation hung between us like a bridge neither of us knew how to cross. Zyx'therial's confession had changed everything, and for 3 days we'd avoided each other while the implications settled. When we finally met again, it was in the UN's private garden at sunset. Her disguise was perfect now, almost indistinguishable from human except for the otherworldly grace of her movements. The council has made their decision, she said without preamble. They want me to return to Vexhar. With you. My heart stopped. What? They believe studying you might unlock new understanding about consciousness and individuality. You would be the first human to visit our homeworld. Her eyes, still alien despite their human appearance, searched my face. You would also be the first being I've encountered whom they cannot simply read and categorize. And if I refuse? Her light dimmed beneath her disguise. Then humanity remains unclassified, neither accepted nor rejected, in limbo until another evaluation team arrives. Perhaps in another century. The weight of my species' future settling on my shoulders felt surreal. But if I go with you, your uniqueness might convince them that humanity deserves inclusion, that there are different forms of consciousness worth preserving. She stepped closer. But Kai, you must understand, on my world, you would be the only mind that exists in isolation. Completely alone except for me. I looked at her, this impossible being who had traveled across galaxies only to find herself drawn to the one mind she couldn't touch. And you? What happens to you? I have requested reassignment to Earth as permanent ambassador. The Council is displeased. They believe I have been compromised by prolonged exposure to human individualism. A sad smile crossed her disguised features. They are not wrong. You'd give up your connection to your people? For me, I already have Kai. The moment I realized that mystery could be more compelling than certainty. We stood in her quarters as she prepared for her report to the council. Her true form was visible now, crystalline skin catching the moonlight streaming through the windows. She had abandoned her disguise around me entirely. There is something I want to experience before I make my final decision, she said, her 3 eyes reflecting different emotions. Hope, fear, curiosity. What's that? Your species' method of intimate connection. The physical manifestation of emotional bonding. She paused, her light pulsing with nervousness. Kissing. I believe you call it. My breath caught. Zyx'therial. I want to understand how beings without telepathy bridge the gap between minds. How you create intimacy across the void of individual consciousness. She stepped closer, her alien features somehow heartbreakingly beautiful. Will you show me? I reached up to touch her face, marveling at the warmth beneath her crystalline skin. Her 3 eyes closed in sequence as I drew her down to meet me. The kiss was unlike anything I could have imagined. Her lips were softer than they appeared, and the moment they touched mine, her entire being blazed with light. The luminescence spread from her core outward, washing over both of us in waves of blue and silver. When we parted, she was trembling. I felt echoes, not your thoughts, but the resonance of emotion, the vibration of connection across the space between souls. Her eyes opened one by one, filled with wonder. Is this how humans love? This reaching across the darkness? Sometimes, I whispered. When we're lucky. Her light pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. I understand now why isolation need not mean loneliness. You create connection through choice, through vulnerable reaching, through faith that the other will meet you halfway. Zyx'therial, I have made my decision, Kai. Whatever the consequences. The council's response came at dawn, a harmonic vibration that filled Zyx'therial's quarters with otherworldly music. She stood rigid as she received their telepathic communication, her form cycling through colors I'd never seen before. When the connection ended, she collapsed to her knees. What did they say? I asked, rushing to her side. They have recalled me immediately. No appeal, no delay. Her voice was hollow. They believe I have been contaminated by human individualism. I am to be reconditioned upon my return. Reconditioned. My memory patterns will be adjusted. My capacity for individual thought reduced. I will become what I was before, a perfect conduit for the collective's will. She looked up at me with all 3 eyes, and I saw tears, actual tears, forming. I will forget you, Kai. Forget what it feels like to love across the void of separate minds. The injustice of it hit me like a physical blow. There has to be another way. There is. Her light flickered with desperate hope. But it would mean giving up everything I am. Tell me. I could sever my telepathic connection to the collective permanently. Become like you, a mind in isolation. But Kai, I would lose everything that makes me Zyx'therian. My ability to commune with others, my connection to my people, even aspects of my memory and identity. She grasped my hands with trembling fingers. I would become essentially human. The magnitude of what she was suggesting staggered me. You'd give up your entire species for me? Not for you, she said firmly. For us. For this thing we've discovered between separate minds. For the possibility that connection doesn't require absorption. That love can exist in the space between souls rather than in their merger. I stared at her, this beautiful alien being willing to sacrifice everything she was for a chance at something neither of us fully understood. What do you need me to do? Her light blazed brighter than I'd ever seen it. Help me learn to be alone. Teach me to be human. 6 months later, I found her in our apartment kitchen, struggling with what she still called primitive food preparation. Her appearance had stabilized into something between her original form and human, crystalline skin with distinctly human features, her 3 eyes now 2 but still that impossible shade of blue. The severing process had been traumatic. For weeks, she'd been lost in silence, learning to exist without the constant hum of other minds. I'd held her through the nights when the isolation seemed unbearable, teaching her meditation techniques and the small rituals humans use to find peace in solitude. The eggs are refusing to cooperate, she announced, holding up the whisk with an expression of mock frustration she'd learned from watching human comedy shows. I laughed and moved behind her, covering her hands with mine to guide the motion. She leaned back against me, and I felt the contentment radiating from her. Not telepathically, but through the 1,000 small intimacies we developed. The way her breathing synchronized with mine, the soft hum she made when happy, the way her skin grew warmer when I was near. Do you ever regret it? I asked quietly. She turned in my arms, her transformed features serious. Losing my telepathy? My connection to my people? She considered this as she considered everything now, slowly, individually, without the collective's input. I miss the certainty sometimes, the sense of belonging to something vast and unified. My heart clenched. But her smile was purely human now, full of the mystery and individuality she'd once found so foreign. But I have gained something I never knew existed, the adventure of discovering another mind through choice rather than compulsion. The thrill of being surprised by someone I love. She kissed me then, and her light, diminished but not gone, pulsed with joy. Besides, she whispered against my lips, humanity was granted provisional inclusion status based on my final report. It seems the Council found the concept of chosen connection intriguing enough to warrant further study. Outside our window, the city hummed with 8 million individual minds, each one a mystery, each one choosing moment by moment who to let inside their private universe. And in our small apartment, two beings from different worlds continued the patient work of building love across the beautiful void between souls.